So welcome to Records Unplugged. This was really created for us to educate the writers and producers that are at home and wanting to learn straight from songwriters and producers and the creatives. I think everybody really likes to understand the perspective from people who have success and what's worked for them. And Dua is really special because she's also an artist that writes her own music. So everybody obviously wants to hear from artists that actually are a part of the songwriting process. But yeah, this is supposed to be a super casual live hang with homies. We want it to be super like unfiltered as much as possible and just really talking about how you guys make music. But yeah, please be respectful in the chat. No craziness, nothing negative. Like this is all positive and educational and all that good stuff. But yeah, thank you guys so much for your time. And yeah, really appreciate you all.
Hell yeah.
That was sweet. Dang, okay, all right. So I guess it's us. It's us. Okay, look, I'm gonna do this officially though, because I feel like if we are gonna do this, we're gonna talk about it.
Dayon's the star. Dayon's the real star of this. Like I created this with Dayyon for Dayyon.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to see my friends, and that's it. But all right, I got like official introductions for y'all because I feel like I could sit here and just be like friends and be like, yo, these my homies, they dope. But people really need to know y'all about that life. And I'm gonna start with you. I'm gonna start with you know who I'm gonna start with because he's the most shy person ever. But before we get into it, you guys gotta know this man's resume. This guy is multi-platinum, Grammy Award-winning, Juno Award-winning songwriter from Miami, Florida. I ain't gonna hold that against you. He lives in the UK right now. He is a part of the production team, The Monsters and the Strangers. They've written songs for Rihanna, Justin Bieber, Lizzo, Halsey, Black, Selena Gomez, and this girl right here who's on our panel. I mean, yeah, the list goes on and on. Please give a virtual round of applause for Mr. Coffee Clarence Jr. Sex with chocolate, y'all.
Yeah, that's Coffee.
And then to the right of him, that's on my screen, we have a female songwriter. Big ups. She's a top liner, a vocal producer. She's written songs for Katy Perry. She wrote Dark Horse, co-wrote a slew of other songs for Katy Perry. She's written songs for John Bellion, Iggy Azalea, Ariana Grande, Nicki Minaj, Justin Bieber, Halsey. I'm gonna get Lockjaw trying to read off all her and she's also this girl on this list. She also is an artist in her own right. She has an EP out. And she has a podcast out too. You're really just doing the whole damn thing. Give it up for Sarah Hudson, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Oh man, and I can't even really get into this next one right here. I mean, like where haven't you Grammy winner, multi-platinum artist? She's on every cover of every magazine, everything you've seen, like all over the world. She's just taking over. I can't even do your whole credential and feel crazy. But please give it up and thank you for coming, Miss Dua Lipa.
Thank you for
having me. Let's go. Man, for real though, thank you guys for coming and doing this. I know it's late there. We're gonna try to keep them short and sweet, but really, like she was saying, I just wanted to do some friends and people I work with who really do this, and we could kind of just talk about music and like how we really make it, like from the creative standpoint, and what's important to us and what's not. I think before we do anything, I think my big question is, because everyone kind of knows you guys work together so much, so I think I want to know how you guys all met. So I don't know who wants to take the wheel on that, but I'll start with you, Dua. How did you and Coffee and Sarah, when did you guys first meet?
My God, it's a long time ago. It's so crazy because we've hung out so much over the past, I think maybe 5 years since I really started writing my first record. So more than that, like 6 years ago. What do you guys
Is that when you
think?
first started 6 years ago?
Was it 6 years ago?
Yeah.
Wow.
So were you living in London then?
I was living in London, but I was writing in LA. So I even want to say maybe I started coming to LA like properly to write 5 years ago. So it was probably around that time. Because I was writing for so long before I even figure out I'm gonna go with my first album, even. So, but I can't remember who.
I feel like it was when we wrote Genesis.
Was it when we wrote Genesis? When we were doing the sessions at was that in Burbank?
In
Or
Burbank.
something like in that big. Yeah, and then we wrote Genesis together. And that was like a fun, crazy experience. I know one time I had I think after that session, then I made like me, you, and Coffee got really close.
Yeah.
And you guys are just kind of my go-tos for any session because I just knew that it was so easy for me to open up and be like vulnerable around you guys and be silly and be myself, that it was always so easy that any session that I had with a producer, I was like, oh, I wanted Coffee and Sarah, and that was kind of it. And I even remember Coffee coming and saving me. I did this session one time, and it was with this girl, and she was so like mean to me in the session. And I was just like, I was so mortified by the whole situation. I text Coffee. I was like, please. I was like, please, can you come to the session? Coco, do you remember this?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Oh, look
Yeah,
at that.
did you hear what I said?
No, I remember. It was ages ago.
But yeah, it was a long time ago. And then I think from that point on, it was just like Three Musketeers.
Yeah.
Which I think is so important. I guess too, that's my other question for you guys. Do you think, because obviously, especially now, going from the beginning to now, you can work with probably whoever you want to, I mean, that's just a fact, I think. But what do you think, why do you think it's so important, and why do you have a part of almost everything you do? Essentially, like from the beginning of, at least from this album, what I've seen, they've heard of album. Why was that so important for you?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think my family really are, my family are also my friends. That's a big part of who I am, and just how I feel comfortable around people. And, my home life doesn't really change. So I feel like the people that I get close with, I like to keep them around, and I like to, work with them, and I feel very open with them. And that's my safe space too, and I want to feel safe just how I would want them to feel safe around me,
Right.
and that for me is really important. And I don't know, when you just find people that you click with and you write well with, then it's kind of a no-brainer. And someone who also, when you're working on like something and it just doesn't come naturally, or it takes a little while to write a song and you feel like you're getting writer's block or whatever, you're around people that you, or you won't feel like, oh, you're not doing like good enough, or you don't feel like you have to constantly prove yourself, because it's such like a non-judgmental, easy room to be in. And that if you come up with a rubbish idea, they'll tell you it's rubbish, and that's okay. It's I think it's all about like honesty and closeness and friendship. I think those are really important things to have when you're working with someone in the room, especially when you're trying to tell your story.
Yeah, and I think to me that's very important. I think for songwriters to hear too, relationships. Sarah, to me, you are like the queen of building, but genuinely building relationships with the artist. I mean, you and Dua are very close. You and Katy Perry are very close. How has the relationships you built helped you in the room writing and just career-wise, you think? Do you think?
I mean, I kind of always came from a place of writing and being creative with authenticity and people that like make, bring out the best in me, and I can bring out the best in other people, and it just feels right. It just is like, if you're close with somebody, or you develop like a relationship or friendship with a similar wavelength kind of person, you you make better music, in my opinion, you know? So it's definitely rare, but they're the people that you just meet and you're like, okay, we see things the same way. We have this natural, like comfortable energy with each other. And I think that's just when the best music is made, you know? And Dua immediately, I mean, me and Coffee were friends before we met Dua. We clicked on that wave. And then when we met Dua, we all clicked on that wave, you know? And we just have the best time. That's the thing too, is like, I think in our songs, you can feel our energy together, which is just like real and fun. And, you know, like, I don't know, we have such a good time. There's no pressure. There's no weird vibes. It's just like a good time, or a real time. Like, it's like hanging out with your friends and making a song. I mean, it doesn't get better than that, you know?
Yeah. And Coffee, for you, I think, at least what I've seen in the room with you, is you have this ability of always keeping everybody pace and always finding that kind of like, I know me, I'm on 100 all the time, but you're always, but you can, but you can be on 100, but also be like, okay, keep dancing, but also this hook though. This is like, he'll go into his zone and be, what do you think it is about you that when you're in the room, how are you able to do that with big, I mean, because obviously you work with big artists, Dua, all these other artists. What is it that you do or you feel like you bring to a room that you're able to kind of like contain that energy?
I would say participation and mindfulness. I think it's very important to remain mindful, or for me at least, to remain mindful throughout the creative process. Just because, you know, we are exerting and putting out so much energy, and there's so many raw material, so many raw ideas coming out that, you know, when that happens, some good things come out. And I think it's important for as many people as possible, but me especially, I think, to just be aware and be like, that was a thing, or how do we flip that? Or, you know, so I think being mindful, and then also not being the quiet person in the corner and participating, because it is an energy. And, you know, it's important for everybody to feel like both were saying, Dua and Sarah, to feel comfortable with each other and like have fun and not take things too serious. So I think participation and mindfulness.
And our community is very small. I don't know if people realize, like, with songwriters, it's so small. First time I saw Sarah was actually going to London. I saw her going to whatever it is when you go through, and I was like, she's definitely a songwriter. All your swag, she had the red. Yeah, and the funny thing is, Coffee, you were there too, but we did not ever really hang out or meet that on doing that camp. So it's like, I saw you and I was just like, you look dope as hell. Like but like we never, we took pictures together, we hung out, we ate, but we
took a whole photo on the steps of outside somebody's door.
And never like, we never worked during that camp though, but we still were connected. And then lo and behold, the next time, I don't know if it was that same trip, but the one time I was in London, I get asked to go to a session with Dua and you. And that was my introduction to both of y'all. All we did really was just dance and make music.
We danced and we just made it really fun.
What was the thing that changed everything for you? Do you feel like when did your career?
I think when it went, just, I don't know, when things changed, I guess, was really New Rules. And when the video came out to New Rules, because that was once my first album had just come out, and then I made this video in Miami, and I was just, you know, when you shoot a video, and I'd been doing so many videos before, I was like, you know, it's great, and I'm having so much fun shooting this video, but I just didn't think it was gonna do what it did, because I just thought it was just gonna be like another video, and, you know, maybe it'll help me like grow momentum a little bit, but not to the point where I did feel like I was like strapped to a rocket and I had no idea what was going on after that point, because I don't know, people just kind of related to that video so much and really saw themselves in it and found a home with the song. It just kind of took on a life of its own. It was very like interesting because I'd never experienced anything like that. But it was like it was new rules. But yeah.
So for you, what was the song that you would say changed everything for you? And then how did it change as a songwriter?
For sure, Dark Horse. I mean, it's funny because I've been doing the same thing my whole life, like since I was, 16, 17, and really just like working and going for it and doing it and writing and writing and writing. And I was literally filing for bankruptcy, sleeping in a studio, no shower, no nothing, just fucking hideous cockroaches. Like it was gnarly. And just through meeting people and, trial and error of just like working with different writers and artists and people I just met through my journey, I ended up meeting Katie, and she liked some songs that I was writing with this other artist, Faraz, who's one of my best friends now. And she just said, hey, I like what you're doing. Like, you want to come to Santa Barbara and write with me and Dr. Luke and Max Martin and Circuit? And I was like, yeah, I'll do that. That could be cool. And we literally wrote Dark Horse in like 4 or 5 hours. I remember driving home being like, I hope that makes the album. Like, that would be cool. And then it kind of just did what it did and totally changed my life. But the funny thing is nothing changed about what I was doing. Like, I was still doing what I've been doing for years and years. It just suddenly there was this moment where the universe opened up for me and was like, here you go, bitch, and
demos that no one listened to.
Yeah, it's so funny.
Ooh, this fun. Yeah.
It's just so funny because you're kind of like, I've been doing this forever, like, but that was just the right time, and it changed for me just in a way of it opening doors and like getting to meet amazing people like Dua and Coffee and, people that I was on the same, like I said before, like wavelength with, and we got to just, I got to just sort of create this little family of writers and artists and people that I'm like so grateful for now. And yeah, so definitely that song was just this gateway.
See, I love that because I think people just kind of assume that it's like an overnight thing or some people are just chosen. It's not. It's everyone is in the same place. Like, there's people got boots on their cars who, write that song. There's no trajectory to it. It's just you work until it happens. And I love that story. It was your time. Yeah. Coffee, I kind of want to ask you the same question because I actually don't know this about you. Man, I want to know, bruh. What was that? What was the moment for you where you saw music changing your life?
The moment for me, I would say was earlier in my career. This had to have been 2010, I think. And it was Swagger Jagger by Cher Lloyd, actually. And that song, shout out to the rest of the Monsters and Strangers, by the way, the Runners, who did that in Autumn Row as well. It really changed everything because it allowed me for the first time to have a cut and a single on a signed artist on a major label that then allowed me to be able to have something to go and get a publishing deal because, I like you, Sarah, as well. And I'm sure like so many of us, I was broke and, it allowed me to have an opportunity to just grow myself as an individual and my career and my craft because I was then able to invest in myself and do something like move from Florida to Los Angeles, with very little, with my best friends and start our life there and work really hard. So I would say that's all.
I think it's important too for people to really understand that. Like, I think they see, especially see us traveling and doing all that kind of stuff. But I don't think people really realize how much work songwriting is. It's like the only job where you say like, yeah, I'll go do that for free and I'll spend a little bit of my own money. And then maybe one day I'll get paid. for it. That is really that's really what it's like for us. We go off and we work for free and for free. I mean, granted, when it pays off, it really pays off. But that's what it's like. So we do it because we don't have any other option. And I think that's why I appreciate people like Dua so much, who really like make it a forefront to make sure that the songwriters are acknowledged for their work, that they're appreciated and are incorporated in what we do. It's not a fearful thing for an artist to write with writers. You know, I feel like it was this thing where people were so scared to say they wrote with people, but that's the reality is you wouldn't have this if songwriters weren't a part of it. And so Dua, that's one of the things I love about you is the first time I ever saw you, you did an interview like at the Grammy Museum or something, and I met you after. But the whole thing, you made sure every song you talked about, everything you talked about, you said, like, the work with it was, I wouldn't have been able to make it without Kaz, whoever it was who you worked with it. And that kind of struck me. So I really appreciated that. So was that you guys have, so you win Grammys, Dua. Now you're on to the second album. Yeah. You don't have to keep saying 2 of them. You're on to the second album. Is it more pressure or less pressure creating this album?
I think it was, towards the end of my first album, there was a lot of pressure, whether it came from, fans and listeners and people online, or whether it came just from my team. Expectations were high and we all wanted to do the best that we could. And for me, myself, obviously, I just want to grow as an artist and be able to mature and do different things and hopefully have longevity in this, career, because this is, like you said, like, I breathe it. And I, like songwriters, we have no other love to do, and this is just what we want to do. And so there was obviously pressure that came with the idea of making a second album. I tried to leave those at the door, and I was like, fuck that. I was like, I'm just going to make music that makes me want to dance and makes me want to have fun, and I just want to write it with people that I love. And, just because that's the kind of energy I want to bring into this record, and that's what I want people to hear when they listen to it. And, I was like, should I put a ballad in this album? And I was like, nah. I was like, that's just not where,
like,
that's
four fingers.
not where I'm at, and I just wanted to make something that was just really fun. And I think it was like the week before I started releasing music from this first record where I started panicking, because I knew that nobody, like none of my fans or anyone, really knew what I was going to put out. I didn't know I was going to like it. I didn't know. I was like, I've done this all in my head, kind of.
Yeah.
And now I'm like,
yeah.
I'm like, what's going to happen? But I was very, like, pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. Congratulations to all of you guys, by the way, for, if you don't know, I'm sure everyone knows it, but Coffee and Sarah wrote her second single, Physical, actually, which is cool because we can talk about that, like an actual process of how we got all the components minus one, the producer. But really, like, how did that song start? I'll let you guys jump in, whoever wants to take the rim on that. But how did that song start? And like, what was the energy in that room?
Do you guys want to start?
I'll let Sarah.
First, I want to say, just on what Dua just said, making a second record, I feel, for an artist is so much pressure. And the dopest thing Dua to me is that she just had a vision. You just had a vision, and like really, really was adamant about how she saw this record going and what she wanted to say. And I just remember throughout the whole process of just like doing different readings and talking about it and just reiterating, like, in our conversations of how important it was to stay true to herself. And she really did. You really did. And like, that's so fucking dope. And I feel like you can hear that in the music and the record. And, I feel like a lot of artists on their second record, like, can kind of succumb to like, oh, it has to be what's on the radio, or almost like a fear, of like the pressure of this, because the first one was so successful. But just think that's really, really sick, and how brave you were, and just like adamant about your vision, and it really shines through. So just wanted to say that before we get into physical. But
Yeah.
I mean, I can start with physical. Was me, Coffee, Dua, and Jason Evigan, and we were at Jason's house. God, all I remember is the flute, and like Jason just starting with that flute, and him like, he's so obsessed with his like world flute sounds, and we were all like, oh my God, you're crazy. But it just started the vibe. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was for sure one of those moments where we were like, do we love the flute? Should we just run with the flute? And then we're like, let's just leave it in and see what happens. And then we just got so attached to it as it went on.
Yeah.
Like, we just have to keep the flute. But it definitely set it, like the flute instantly put it in that kind of drive soundtrack world. Like you instantly, I felt like I was in an 80s movie. And yeah, it's just kind of bringing that like world alive. We were like, let's just go crazy, let's go super 80s, let's make it really flash dance, let's make it in your face, and let's just, you know, that was kind of the energy, and we just went for it.
Banana. I remember the banana.
Banana.
Yes,
Stop.
Art.
The banana was crazy. It was like one of those like not mood. It was like a stress ball banana.
It was great. It was great.
It was sad.
Odd, and we just like banana. Symbol, we would everything. So that's what I took away from it. But it's the thing that I remember most about that, other than the flute. I don't know why.
Yeah, I'm trying to think like back to it. Like we were just trying to find really 80s inspired words like diamond rich, and nothing on this planet compares to it. And just, I don't know, it was just meant to be so theatrical and silly and fun, but really trying to describe that feeling of loveness of everything, you know.
I think I'm muted.
Yeah.
So I think that's the beauty because you guys are so comfortable with each other, and there's that kind of family vibe that you guys can do that. Because I honestly believe in sessions when you don't know each other, it's always like it's like a first date. You're like, I want to be on my best behavior around this person. I don't want them to know my crazy. They can't know I'm really crazy. And but that's where, for us at least, that's where all the genius is when you can let that down and be like, yo, man, what if we just, you know, did some flutes, and like, you know what I mean? So I think it takes getting to that point. And so I think for me, the theme of this is the relationship between you guys is what makes the music the way it is, and the trust that you guys have. I can't say how important that is. Oh, Sarah's raising her hand. Oh, okay. Go, chime in.
Can you unmute me for a second? So, I just also remember about that session just singing. Once we wrote the chorus, it was such like an anthemic sort of, you know, I don't know, it reminds me almost of like Pat Benatar, like Love is a Battlefield, like just this big chorus. And we all sort of went in the booth and sang backgrounds. And I just remember it being like so much fun to do those vocals together. And we just had such, like I said earlier, the energy of that day was so fun. And like, we were just so crazy dancing around. And I feel like when you put on the song, it comes through in the song. Like there's just this special energy about it, you know? But you're right. It's because we had built up a rapport and we were so close, and, you know, I don't know, it was just the best day. I loved it. Loves it.
I think it's also important to know that this relationship started long ago. It wasn't like, oh, Dua Lipa's famous, let's work with her now. It was, you know, I mean, I think, I can't speak on it, but I mean, I feel like you guys all had something mutually to gain at the start of it. You guys were all in maybe the same place. So this wasn't like, let me just jump on a bandwagon and work with the famous artists. This was something you guys did. I know Coffee, I've talked to you many times. I know how you guys' relationship started, and it started first album and in a very specific place. And it was something you believed in her more than anything. And that's what led you guys to this. And I think writers need to understand that, like, yeah, you may get that big cut with that big artist, but also you got all these amazing artists and talent around you. Work with the people around you. Work with the people who are talented, who maybe aren't the most popping thing, because you never know. You never know. But do it out of love. Start from there, and then it grows. And that's like I mean, I started in the basement with my production partner, like doing records that we had no clue with anyone's album, and I went to the Grammys with that fool last year. We would have never thought we'd go from a basement like to the Grammys. So it's more than possible. It's a reality if you want it to be, but don't be afraid to use the people around you. It's very important, because they become the Dua Lipas. You know what I mean? They don't start that way, but they become the Dua Lipas. We are, I'm pretty sure they knew. So I think we got, because like time is kind of moving. You just shake your head if I should do it, and because we have a couple questions, because we have this like little Q&A thing. It's so much going on. Yeah, shout out Jeff Shun if you're watching.
Shout out Jeff for sure.
Should I ask a couple questions? Yeah. Oh, I have this one question. I guess I'm gonna ask this to Coffee and Sarah. I like this question. What is the ratio of time? I feel like I already know the answer. What's the rate? It left. What's the ratio of time you guys spend doing pitch records versus working with artists? I already know Coffee's answer, but say it out loud.
I want to first start off by saying there is no right or wrong way, right? I do believe you have to pay attention to what works for you as an individual, and you have to see the trends of what resonates with other people and how you resonate with certain artists. And I think the pitch situation is a bit, for me at least, it's a bit exhausting, because I am the kind of person, I like to invest everything I have into someone, whether it be a friend, whether it be a family member, or in this case, when Dua and I first met, you as an artist, because we're both very spiritual and sensitive beings, what we all are, right? But I paid so close attention to the way that we just connected on a spiritual level, and it resonated with me. And I would be a fool to ignore something like that, because I feel like the universe gives you gifts, whether it be people or experiences or whatever it is, and you have to pay attention to the resonance, because if you don't, you could really potentially miss out on something, but also not be available to gift and bless someone else in front of you, And in this case, I think, specifically with you, Dua, like, Dayyon, you said, we both have believed in each other since day one. You've never forgotten about me. You've always been very, very loving towards me, on a human level, and you've always been there for me. So it speaks so much when people are investing in each other like that. So I think it's important to invest each other. And I guess I'll close it by saying, like, I love working one-on-one or, in groups on an artist project or one record or a body of work, because you have an opportunity to give every bit of you to something. And I think, going along with what you were saying earlier, Sarah, about authenticity, it's so important to remain authentic. And how can I have a problem with it, but I find it's difficult for me to be my most authentic if I'm spreading myself too thin.
Which I have to say is something that I've learned. Actually, I've learned something from you guys. I think Coffee has taught me more balance. And it's something he said to me from the first time. It's like, Dan, you shouldn't be just top lining in every room or trying to shoot for this. He's giving me some real, I won't go into detail, but he's giving me some like advice that I'm like, oh, okay, all right. You're my brother though, so I'm gonna take that. And Sarah, first time I met her was at this writing camp in London. And, I'm just excited to be there. I'm just happy, like, our artist wants me in the room. And so I'm living it up. So I'm I'm going to the studio and then I'm staying up to 6 a.m. and I'm doing this. She taking a bubble bath and going to sleep at night. She coming in and she writing. And then I was like, oh, that's kind of lame. But then later in life, when, you know, when my eyes are dilating and I can't sleep and having heart palpitations, I'm like, oh, that's called balance. And I need to pick which one I want to do, be a professional songwriter or a DJ. I need to pick one. And like, but I learned that balance from watching people like you, who she's just like, look, I came here to work. If I got the energy to do it, fine. If I don't, that's getting sacrificed, not the quality that I'm gonna bring into a room. And then do the same thing. I've never seen anybody work at a level you work at, and you work like it's your first day. I'm like, baby girl, you know you famous, right? Do you know it? I don't think you do, because you don't. You work like a new artist. You work like you've never done it. Everything you treat people like gold, and you work as if like it's the start of everything, which it is, but you know what I mean. Like it's like day one. And I think all those things are beautiful, and like I appreciate you guys from that. So if you're in the room with people who are better than you, which you should be always trying to be in the room with people who are better, learn and listen to them. All right, I got a few more questions and then we're gonna wrap it up. These are things that man, I can barely read. But Devado asked this question. He said, as an artist and songwriter, what steps do you suggest that I take? AKA sending my stuff around EPK to get my stuff heard. So he's asking, what steps do you suggest I take to get my stuff heard as a songwriter? I'll let you guys handle this question. Whoever, Coffee, you looking at me with them eyes.
Sarah, you got it?
Yeah.
Hi.
Oh, hey.
In my opinion, just put shit out there in the beginning. Put your music out. Go, you know, network, go meet people. You can't be, you know, shy about talking to people and telling them what you do and messaging people. And, you know, and especially, I don't know if you're a woman or whoever is asking this, but as a woman in music entertainment, it's like, you know, in my experience, it's like you have to be kind of like a little bit intense and like, at least for me, kind of annoying. And like I would message people and hit people up in the beginning of my career like relentlessly, you know, and just like the hustle, important part of it. I think if you want it bad enough, it's like every day just has to be like, okay, what can I do today? Put my music out, put it up. Now we can put it on the internet everywhere. You know, like go out to these events like ASCAP and BMI. They always have events, songwriters, you know, do sessions. Just in the beginning, I just think it's important to get out there. And, you know, relationships form and you end up meeting your team and your family. And I don't know, it ends up sort of working out how it's supposed to. But in the beginning, I just say like, be bold and, you know, and dare to suck too. Like that's the other thing is you gotta just dare to suck and like put it all out there, and you're gonna get better and better and better and learn from your experience. That's the thing is like experience is how we get better, and you have to just keep having experiences to grow, you know? So I don't know, I hope that helped, but that was my take. Being annoying, and Coffee could tell you that I do that very well.
I feel like you're right. I feel like it's just don't be afraid to be big trash. It's gonna happen. Like everything's not gonna be that hit song, but it takes all those to get you there.
Yeah.
You have to do it. You have to go through it. Also, like the very first time I was in a recording studio, I'm not gonna call it a recording studio. It was a closet, but whatever. But I mean, you go through all of it. It's like everyone's like looking for like that pot of gold on the mountain, and nah. You walking, you stepping through mud for a long time before you get there. That's it. So don't be afraid to be there. It's hard with social media because you see everybody popping gold chains, but that's not the reality of it. Anyone who is where Dua is, where Sarah is, where Coffee is, went through a lot of ups and downs, a lot of struggles to get them to the point where they are. I feel like most of the questions here kind of lead to one thing. So I'm gonna ask this one last question because I know y'all gotta go to bed and do things. I'm very excited. I brushed my teeth today and took a shower. Shout out.
Eyeliner.
Yo, these are weird times. Yo, can I get a round of applause? Like, yo, I spent a few crusty days in this house. So thank you for just getting me back to, hygiene. But for real, okay, so I'm gonna ask this one last question because I feel like it sums up a lot of these questions. Shout out to Hamza. Hamza, stop asking questions over here. But also you're amazing. She's an artist out of the UK, and I love this girl. Okay, so I'm gonna ask this last question. I'm gonna ask it to all of you, and I'm gonna go Dua, Sarah, Coffee, so we know. So I'm gonna ask it like this. So for what's one piece of advice you would give to the next Dua Lipa? Boom, go.
My God, that's hard. You have to explore all angles, work really hard, post your stuff on YouTube, on SoundCloud, on Spotify if you can, on your social media, be really active on all those things. I think, now more than ever, like I when I was living in Kosovo from the age of 11 to 15, like I wanted to move back to London because I needed to be in a place where everything was happening because I didn't have the streaming services and all those kind of things that I felt you can now use to your advantage to put music up online and be heard all over the world. So I really can't stress enough how important that is to be heard and to get yourself out there, and don't shy away from it. Like, don't shy away from the thing that you love the most.
Sarah. Oh, so I guess I have to say it. So Sarah, what's one piece of advice you give to the next big female songwriter out there? What are you telling them?
I would say, really keep remembering what makes you unique and really focus on that, because there's a lot of people that are so talented and so amazing, and don't compare yourself to other people. Like, focus on, hey, I'm good at this is my unique talent and ability, and that's why people are going to call you back to come back into the room, because of what you do, and I think comparing yourself is just, I call it compare and despair. It's just a waste of energy, So I just say, focus on your unique abilities, and like you said earlier, go into rooms with people that are better than you. Always go into rooms and surround yourself with people that are experienced, because you're just going to learn from them, and you're going to learn about just, I don't know, about what makes you special, and how to curate a room too, like, oh, hey, I don't sing these crazy trills and whatever, so I'm going to bring in this person for this session. Or I need a conceptual lyricist, like, I'm going to bring in this person. Like, finding out sort of what makes you special and what makes people around you special, and curating a room. Also, just, I don't know, I think a real talent in its own. But my main thing is just focus on you and your special, uniqueness.
I'm going to chime in real quick before Coffee goes. I think I love what you're saying, and I'd love for maybe you and Coffee, before we wrap up, to touch on how important it is to develop relationships as a writer with an artist early on, and what that really means in terms of, because you're saying right now, like, this is the reason why people keep calling you back. It's the relationships that you're building with other songwriters and other producers and also artists that are really special enough for them to keep wanting to work with you. And I think also, the question that we talked about a little bit offline, Dayyon, with Dua, like, you have access to a lot of writers and producers. You keep going back to working with Sarah and Coffee and Dayyon for a reason. And obviously they're all really talented, but there is something really special in the relationships that you've developed that, you know, are a reason that you keep calling them back to work with you.
I mean, I'll always talk, so you guys just tell me to shut up. But for me, it's like, you can't like force a connection, you know, like there's artists out there that I love that I'm like, oh, I get to go in the room with this artist. Like, it's going to be so dope. And then I get in the room and we just don't click. Or same with other writers too. Like, oh, this writer, I heard they're amazing, and we get in the room and we just aren't, you know, on the same page. And that's okay, because then you do meet artists like Dua, who for me, like, we're just like, boom, we're sisters immediately. And Coffee, same. Like, I think it's important to pay attention to just act with, rather than like, this is a name, or like, I have to get in the room with this person, because that's when you're going to make the best art, you know? So yeah, that's my tea.
For me, I just feel like, I don't know, you know, what we were saying earlier, even on the very early stages, you guys agreed to come and work with me in the room, and you guys put your trust into me, and we just created very like honest relationships from the very beginning. It was one of those things that you put your trust in me, and I put my trust in you by just, you know, opening up and talking about my very personal experiences. And I say this all the time, that I feel like all three of you know me more than I know myself sometimes, especially because we start, you know, our sessions, especially when Sarah's in the room, like we start with a tarot reading and we talk about things that put us in very vulnerable situations, but it makes the room so much more open. And I don't know, it's nice to nurture these relationships with you know, the me, it's important to nurture my relationships with you guys, because I don't know, our friendship just from working together has grown so much, and I feel like we don't always have to be in a room writing to be there for each other, and to, you know, be able to guide each other in this, like, on this journey too. I'll like mute myself.
I agree. I think, yeah, going back to what you just said and what you also said, Sarah, like, I personally, because I come from only creating with friends, right? So I think my first instinct is to focus on building a friendship with someone. And through that, you build trust. And then if you're both talented and there's a trust and there's a friendship there, the records are going to happen eventually. You just have to continue working, but you have to nurture and nourish the friendship between the two of you, because I know sometimes, at least I think, relationship and friendship can be two different things, because you can have a very business relationship and the connection's not really there. But when you have a friendship, again, you trust each other, you're able to be vulnerable with each other, and if you're both talented, the records will happen eventually. So it's a lot of just patience and grooming of friendship.
And I think I want to say that's very important too, because I think there's so many people you can work with. And there's I couldn't even list all the amazing writers out there in LA, London, Sweden, all over the world. Like, the writer community is amazing. So imagine with having that ability to write with all these people, and then they're mean or they're not good people. Like, why do we don't have to? We have options. Knowing that if you have a bad day in the studio and you don't get that record, it's fine, because you trust them and you built that up. So look, we'll get one next time. But if it's someone who just typically, you're like, boy, you on every nerve I got, like, you're not going back in the studio. That's just like fact. You're not working with them again. So I think that's important, to just be nice, be humble, and work. That is one of the biggest keys. I mean, you can be some people who are super talented, but every time you're like, yo, I got to work with so-and-so, you're like, ugh, dang. I mean, they fire, but I don't want to go through this today. And it's like that. We have those, we know those people. So I think if you can be talented and be a good person and connect, then it's just going to move you that much further. Also, because I forgot to say it, and it's very important, just want to say it. I'm gonna read it because I don't want to mess it up. But the people over at Music Cares put together, I think through Venmo on here somewhere. I don't see it. They put together a way. I think it's through at Motion Creative. Have put together like a way for you guys if you want to donate anything to this cause. 100% of the proceeds go to all the musician writers. Because we don't have a union, we ain't got who don't have money to kind of pay for any healthcare they're going through with this Rona situation. The official term COVID-19 is what it's called, but I call it Rona because she be on the block. I don't know what that means. But anyway, if you want to make a donation, that's how you do it. I think it's in the little tab here at Motive Creative through Venmo, and 100% goes to any musicians and songwriters and artists who don't have money for healthcare. They need it. So that's it. I love you guys. Thank you for doing this. I know you've been up all day doing this stuff all day.
Thank you so much, guys. Really, really appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys.
I think it's important for us
Thank you so
to
much.
be able to and highlight what we do and how we do it. And you guys are like the best at it. Congratulations on the album.
Congratulations on the album, for sure.
Alja is out right now. All these guys have songs on it. They work really hard. And man, I promise you, when this is over, we're gonna hit a restaurant. We gotta hit first of all, Dua is the biggest foodie I've ever met. I can be anywhere in the world. I could be like, yo, I'm in Peru right now. I need a spot to go eat it, and she'll be like, hold up, fam. And that's the worst accent ever. Ugh. But she'll just drop locations. She'll be like, yo, so there's a hut, and this dude uses leaves with bamboo. He just stuff, and I'm like, all right, let's go.
We have to have another conversation about that some other time.
So we will all meet up. Until then, it's just a weird time, but I appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to come and talk to people. Hopefully somebody heard something. They'll appreciate it. This will be up on YouTube later, so you can see it. It'll be all edited and clean and pretty, so you can watch it and listen to it. But yeah, that's it. I don't know how we exit. I think
Thanks so much, guys.
I love you guys. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
I'll see y'all soon.